Okay, we're looking at some tapping licks here, and the first one I'm going to do of the tapping licks is the basic, or what I would call a triplet lick, that Eddie Van Halen uses. Before I go through a few ways of using this, I'm just going to cover the basic technique so you can see how it works. I'm going to start out with, it's actually a C-sharp minor arpeggio, but for now don't worry about that, just pick up on the notes. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this finger from my right hand. Now Edward holds the pick in these two fingers, okay, and uses his first finger to tap, and I hold the pick in the conventional way that most people do, and I tap with this finger. It was shown to me by Sean Baxter, and I've done it like that ever since. Now, what we do is we slam this finger, or the finger of your choice, onto the fretboard while fretting a note with the first finger of the left hand, or in this instance. So we basically get this. And what's happening there is you're getting sort of like a right hand pull off, almost if you was doing like that with the left hand, but you're doing it with the finger on the right hand and pulling off to this 6th fret G string note. Then once we've actually performed those two notes, which hopefully you can hear it going round and round, we slam the third finger, or in this particular instance the third finger, onto the fretboard, and you'll get this effect. So just make sure you get a little bit of meat with that. Now I'll just speed it up, and then hopefully you'll be able to hear that sound that we all know and love. Okay, now there's a few ways in which these licks are used, and I'll cover a couple for you, 2 or 3 for you. Now, one way of doing it is that you have this arpeggio like here. Now, if you move your finger up to the next fret, which will be the 14th on the G, you'll have now gone to an A major arpeggio. And so this is a really good way to use this lick, because you can outline arpeggios, which are basically notes of chords. So here we have C-sharp minor. If we just move that finger up 1 fret, we get A major. Now if we move the left hand up by itself, you'll notice that we're getting an A diminished triad. And if we now move this up to the 16th fret on the G string, we get a B triad. And hopefully you're noticing that both hands don't move at the same time. It makes it much easier if you move either the right hand or the left hand separately. So the right hand goes first, then the left hand follows, right hand goes, left hand follows. So there we have that. Now if I move this left hand up and leave the right hand where it is, and I play the 9th on the G, and then you'll see that I'm playing the 13th on the G, leaving that right hand on the 16th on the G. I'm getting an E major triad. So just to recap, I've got C-sharp minor, A major, A diminished, B major, to E major, and hopefully this will sound like the start of a very popular Van Halen piece. So if I just speed it up for you a bit. And that's how you outline triads. And you can outline any triads that you want with this. Another popular one would be, for example, an E minor triad played on the B string, which would be 5th fret B string, 8th fret on the B string, and 12th fret on the B string. And you'll get up there. And if we move down there, we get a B major sound. So we can go from that E minor triad to that B major sound. And move between the two. Okay, now another way of using this lick is not so much as an arpeggio thing that follows chords, but to use it within a scale format. And I'm going to show you a really nice, easy way of doing that. If we have our regular pentatonic scale here in the key of A, then we can come down here. What we can do is we can use all these notes along the 12th fret here, and the only one that's going to be not strictly in the scale is going to be this B note. But it doesn't matter, it will work fine, especially at the speed we're going to be going. And so basically what we do is we use the technique that we were just discussing. And then once we've slammed that third finger on there, we move to the next string. So hopefully you're noticing that this first finger and this finger on the right hand are moving strings together. Okay. Now, the great thing about a technique like this is it's fairly free in terms of how many times you play the lick on each string. So you don't, once you get good at it, you don't have to do it like 4 times a string or 3 times a string. You basically just, you know, go nuts. So if you're going... And hopefully you notice that I went up there. So the way for going up is exactly the same. Instead of doing this and then moving down, you do it. So you have the whole lick. And so what I'll do now is I'll include this part of the pentatonic as well, which hopefully you notice is position 2. Following it down there. Okay, now another really cool variation of this lick, and I'm going to stay around this pentatonic position for this sound. This is one that Eddie uses all the time. Is what we're going to do now is we're going to do that same right hand pull off, but instead of the first finger of the left hand being the fretting note, it's now going to be the third finger. And what's going to happen is it's going to go pull off, then this finger's going to pull off, then this finger's going to pull off. Then that's going to hammer back on. Okay, so I'll do that for you slowly. So, in summary, it's pull off, then this finger pulls off, then this finger pulls off to the open string, then hammer, then hammer. So it's a great lick just on one string. Now I'm going to show you a couple of variations on this as well. And the first one's going to be like a sort of a scale thing, like we did before on one of the other licks. Now the way that we change strings with this is that when we come up from the lick, instead of coming back on the same string, we come back on the string that's either above it or below it. So an important thing to remember is if you're having trouble with dampening strings, as you attack that next string, the back side of this finger is actually damping the one you just came from. Hopefully. moved down a string there. It's exactly the same concept. I just went down 2 frets and then hammered up again. Okay, so you can really just go nuts on it like this one, actually. And again, if I'm down in the pentatonic position here. Okay. Also, if you want to use this lick on a string, if you on just literally on one string, if you were, say, for example, playing in E minor, like a Dorian scale, you could pick one note up here, say, for example, a D here. Or if you're in E minor. And all I'm basically doing is just going between different little pairs of notes on the left hand, keeping this constant here. Okay, I'm going to look at another variation of this lick and play a very popular style Van Halen thing, which I hope you'll recognise. And this is now going to use this lick in the arpeggio form. Okay, so if we look at the arpeggios we have here, we've got the first one we're going to play is A minor. So I'm tapping onto the 12th fret A string. Then I'm using the 7th fret on the A and the 3rd fret on the A. Then this is going to stay the same, and this hand's going to move up 2 frets. So we'll have 5th fret on the A, and we'll have 9th fret on the A, and then the 12th fret on the A that we had before. And as you notice there, what I'm doing is just pulling off with that note down there just to finish off. So let's just do that first part. And as you notice there, the way that I'm moving up is just by going and then just slamming on that next. Now we come to our next note here, which is a D minor arpeggio. And we've got an F note there, which is at the 3rd fret D string. Then we've got an A note, which is at the 7th fret D string, and then we've got our finger up on the 12th fret D string, playing a D note. And we move that up 2 frets. To get like a G arpeggio. So we're basically playing 5 on the D, we're playing 9 on the D, and 12 on the D. So let's just recap on what we've got so far. I think the only point of interest is when we come to a new string to fire this off, we basically just come across and just do a pull off to an open string like that. So I'll just show you how we do that. Hopefully you saw me slowed down there. So let's just go through these arpeggios slowly. Okay, now we move on to the G string, okay, and we're going to play a G minor arpeggio, which is going to be 3rd fret G string, it's going to be 7th fret G string, and then 12th. Okay, then we're going to move this up and we're going to play 5th fret on the G string, and then we're going to play 9th fret on the G string. Which is going to be a C major arpeggio. Okay, so if we put all these together, slow and then fast. You notice I just alternated between those last two arpeggios, so let's play the whole thing. Okay, and that's using that technique for chords. Okay, we're going to look at a little rundown, and it's going to be in the A minor position, and when you're coming down like this, it's sometimes called one of Eddie Van Halen's super shapes. Again, tapping everything at the 12th fret. Now, the only slight difference here is that he comes down, pulls off, pulls off, pulls off, and then slams his little finger onto the note of the next string, which in this case is going to be all 8th fret. And then on the last one, you pull off, pull off, pull off, pull off, pull off. Finish on an A5 chord. Okay. And the way you could start this lick off if you want is just by firing off a little pull off there. On the 12th, pull off to the 5th on the high E. And then slam those two fingers onto the 7th and 8th. And then back down. One more lick using this similar technique, and we're going to go back to our pentatonic thing again, and we're going to kind of reverse the tapping thing now, and instead of going this way, we're going to go like that. So we go 12th fret high E string, slam down, pull off, pull off. Then what we're going to do here, which is a slightly interesting point, is slam this finger down onto the 12 again, pull off, and then our next note is going to be achieved by slamming the 3rd finger on the string adjacent. Hopefully you can see what's happening there, so we're getting this effect. And that's, with this technique, it's the way that we move basically the lick around the neck. Now, once that finger arrives on that string, we're ready to perform the same thing again. So. Okay. Speed up a bit. Now, if we want to move that way with the thing, it's basically the same thing. Instead of slamming this finger onto the string that's adjacent that way, we do it the other way. Okay, I'm going to show you a little a lick now which uses what we call a trill with the left hand in combination with a slide, and it sounds like this. And what's happening there is we're trilling between this 5th fret B string, this note here, which is an E note, 5th fret B string. Great little exercise that, it's a very understated exercise. Just hammering on and pulling off, little trill, with the 3rd finger of our left hand, and then basically at any given moment we slide with the finger of our choice with the right hand. And you can do this two ways. You can do this when the finger's down, or you can do it while it's up. Okay, we're going to look at a lick now which uses a technique of the similar tapping stuff to what we've done so far, but the left hand's going to move down, and it sounds like this. And what's happening here is we use the same as before. The left hand moves down one. In this case, I'm doing it twice, but you can do it as many times as you want. So basically pulling off using this 5th and 8th with on our friendly 12th fret note on the B string. And then basically this finger moves down, these fingers move down in semitones. There to there, so. It's a very common move at the turnaround of a blues where you're going from minor if, for example, you were doing a kind of a Johnny Be Good type of vibe, you wanted to put a great little lick in there, you're playing away. And that will work there, or you can just repeat it round and round. Okay, we're going to look at another tapping technique now. It's not like a sort of super fast round and round thing, but it's a great lick, and I'm sure you've heard it many times. Okay, what's happening here is we bend a note. In this case, I'm bending the 7th fret G string up a tone, adding some vibrato there, and then I'm taking the finger from my right hand and I'm tapping. First of all, on the 12th fret. Now, what generally happens here, I know it's a feel thing, which I know doesn't necessarily always help you out, but it really is. You bend up, tap, pull off, release the bend again, and you tap on that 10th fret. Now, regularly, if we were saying in the key of A, where this would fit, that F note wouldn't work out, but we have to bear in mind we've got to start thinking a little bit differently here because we're bending this note a tone. So that note would normally be, you know, it would normally be a G if we just played it like that, but because the note is bent, it's an A. And this note is going to be a G, even though it's an F in terms of where it is on the guitar. So what we're really achieving here is this. And we've all heard this. Okay, so what's happening is and then we can start to, you know, build up the speed on it. We can do it slowly. Great thing about a lick like this is so much variation that you can do with it. You can pretty much kind of do it anywhere on the guitar, and it generally sounds okay as long as it's sort of more or less in key. You can even hit that F sharp there and it can sound good. Or we can speed it up a little bit like that, and we can pretty much do it on any strings that we want. And it's a great lick. And the other one I like to do is get this, well, I got it from Edward, so it's not really mine, but I bend this up as well a tone. Right, we're going to look at a slightly different way of using the technique where we bend up and hit that note. On the thin strings, generally we'll bend up a tone Then if we want to hear an A note, as we said before, we'll tap 2 frets behind the note. So it'll be, you want to hear this note, so we tap there. Okay, now on the bass strings, it's slightly different because we just bend a semitone. So for example, if we wanted to do a lick of this type on the A string, we'd bend a C note at the 3rd fret A string, a semitone like that, and we play on the 11th fret A string, and that would give us an A sounding above our C, or our bent C, should we say. So the only difference is we're playing a semitone behind the note as opposed to a tone. And the typical way that Eddie Van Halen would use a lick like this would be maybe coming down, say, one more time. Or say, for example, it was an E, say something like this. Just bending that 3rd fret G note. So that's just the difference between the thick strings and the thin strings. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of cool tapping licks now using sort of a scale orientated idea, and I'm going to use this C major scale here. Okay, so we're going 8, 7, 5 on the high E, then 8, 6, 5 on the B, and we're going to go 7, 5, 4 on the G, and we're going to go 7, 5, 3 on the D and 7, 5, 3 on the A. And the idea of this is that instead of picking the note, we tap it. And basically we're going to be all on the 12th fret with the right hand, and it's going to be so you notice there, so just think of it, instead of picking it, you tap it. And it's always on the 12th fret above the string that you're on. So your tapping note's always going to be the same. And you get sort of like a classical pedal tone type effect, and speed it up, it sounds like this. Once more. Now the beauty of a lick of this type is that you can sort of do a lot with it. I mean, I'm just showing you one example there where you can go from the top of the scale to the bottom, but you can sort of vary it around a lot so that you can just sort of play the first 3 notes a few times, then move down to the next string. Or you can come up strings. So if I just muck around the scale. You can come up with your own sequences. And it's also really easy to move up strings. If I want to play the same idea, just come up a tone. And all I'm doing there is just moving a tone above the position I am, still staying within that scale. Obviously, if I want to stay on the same string and go up, move up to the G, for example, and just stay within that scale. Okay. And one way you can make it easier is just start on this 20th fret high E string, which is a C note. And you can move that around until your heart's content, just really anywhere you want. Okay, one more variation on this lick, where we can use it in more of a sort of rock blues format, is that we can go... One way of doing this would be coming down a sort of what we could call a Dorian, a mix between a Dorian and a blues scale, which would be 8-7-5 on the high E, 8-7-5 on the B. Okay, now what we're going to do is on these notes here that are a tone apart, we're going to use the chromatic notes between. So that's going to be 7-6-5 on the G, 7-6-5 on the D, 7-6-5 on the A. Then we're going to go and do that lick that we did previous. So the whole thing will sound like this. Tapping on the 12th fret again. And we're just firing off that last note. So I'm just going to do it quickly for you. Another nice way of doing it as well would be to use this blues note here. So we go 8-7-5 on the high E, 8-7-5 on the B, and then we go 8-7-5 again on that G, and then just use the chromatic passing tones on the D and A strings. So we get this. And again, we can vary it. To get a nice effect like that.